Hello, everyone. Kim Victoria here. And for this ABC April 2025, I'm offering something for M. And for me, it's just something that I've been playing with. And I made a few and I demonstrated them to the little art group I belong to. And everybody had a wonderful time and came away with a fun thing. And I created a new one on video today. And here it is. It's a mini multi-purpose. Oh my, it's for your purse, your car glove box, or the console box, or your backpack, or so it's just very small, but got everything in it. So stay with me, and I show the whole thing, and I also have some extra information at the end, and I hope you enjoy this, am inspired, and get a lot of good ideas. So let's get started. Those of you who either do or used to do scrapbooks, or any of you card makers, you will remember sketches. And we used to have a lot of magazines that would do layout sketches, and you could still get a lot of those books at thrift stores. And we've lost most of the magazines. I think there's still one or two still out there. But sketches are so great. You know, if you get Rubber Stamp Madness, I advertised for years and still do in Rubber Stamp Madness, and they still show you card designs. So we can use those in our journals, absolutely. So those sketches, those magazines and books that I still have are super useful. But I also have done my own sketches. So when I'm working on projects, and I kind of have a gist of an idea, and I know what materials I have and papers and things. So I start working out on just some sketches, and it's very helpful for me. So if that's something you haven't played with, it's a really good thing to do. I also work out, I think things through. It's like, how have I used journals and notebooks and what's what are things that I could find useful? So that's how I came up with this idea. I started experimenting and playing with my own stuff. I came up with more ideas with how I wanted to make journals for my own use. So this is something that I'm going to be doing for you today is this idea of an practical, because I tend to be kind of practical and organized, and especially when we're traveling, I do like to be organized and keep track of the auto mileage, keep the receipts, because when we travel, we're doing business most of the time. So in business, you have to keep these records so that you can write it off for your taxes and stuff, which has, saved us a lot of money. So this is something that I thought I would make one of these for the car, just so that it will be there. So that's going to be one of the things, but also a purse notes kind of thing. So I wrote all this out. So at the end of this video, I'm going to write out a little more legibly so that you can take that note for yourself as a screenshot if that would be helpful for you. So here's my notes on what I'm going to do with these. And here's just a standard American file folder. And this one I coffee dyed. So this one is pre-vintaged or distressed or grunged or whatever direction I want to take this one. For starters, though, I'm just going to go ahead and work with the standard one. And because I want it to fit in the car console, glove box, or in my purse, I want it to be smaller. I want it half this size. I don't need a giant thing. It won't fit. So these are 11 and 5/8. So that would be 11, that would be 5.5 and 5/16. Oh my goodness. So let's see, let's keep this simple. So if I cut off a 16th and make that 11.5, I try to make the math a little bit easier for myself. So half of 11 is 5.5, and a half of a half is another 1/4 inch. So I'm going to say that a half is 5 3/4 without that little extra 16th. And if it isn't exact, that's okay because these don't really have to be perfectly exact. I just want to help you out with that math a little bit in case you want to just make one that's 5 inches, you know? Maybe 5 inches instead of 5.5 or 5.5 and a 16th is what you need. Because I chose a file folder that has the flap in the center of the whole thing, it's really easy to then just use the corner punch and get rid of those pointy ends. Right? Okay. So I have these set up. I have this one. Well, let's see. Not quite. I like those rounded corners. So I'm going to go ahead and round those corners. So I have 3 here, and I plan on making 3 today. So what I did with this one is these file folders come with 3 extra fold lines. So I made a little tiny spine that is going to hold a little miniature journal. And I think I'm just going to go for it here. There's so many different ways of doing this, and I've made a few. So this one, I'm going to go ahead and I'm not going to fold it all the way to the signature. I'm going to fold it about halfway. I'm not measuring it. We will make do with whatever this happens to be. And I see it's not perfectly square, so I'll have to rectify that. But I do want to, okay, since this one I don't have a tab, I'm going to go ahead and use it without the tab. I'm going to allow space on either side here for the signature, so this isn't going to butt right up against that signature. So I'm going to just start with that structure. And I kind of like this one being a little bit longer, and that's where that pencil, little pen or pencil holder comes in. Well, this is a little bit crooked. Let's see if I can straighten that out. That's better. I'll have to trim these a bit. So I am going to put together a signature and a few little items for this, and I'll be right back. I think I have all the bits and pieces I need here. When you're working with, I'm working with A2 size papers because I live in the United States. So if you live where there's A4, the same thing is going to happen. It's just you're going to have a little bit different dimensions, of course. So your file folders will be a little bit taller and a little bit narrower. Same with the paper, a little bit taller, a little bit narrower. And that is just fine. So I took just a lined paper pad and tore out, in this case, 6 sheets. And I'm just going to go ahead and fold it in half this way. I'm not going to do them individually. This is kind of a casual sort of product. I mean, the first one, this is the one that takes time, is putting together the very first one, because this is the figuring it out stage. So the next thing I want to do is cut this in half, and it is, of course, 11, so I want to go to 5.5. And I need to do that with a cutting board because my paper trimmer can't handle it. So here's my little signature. Easy peasy. So it's not real fat. I could have a few more pages, but I think this is just fine. Now, these could be sewn in, and it could be elastic. If I was going to go with elastic, I would put a little extra reinforcement on what I'm considering the spine part of the file folder. So this all depends on what materials you have, right? Sewing is a great way of doing it because it's so easy to do the 3-hole pamphlet stitch and get that in there. I'm not going to bother with this one. I'm going to go ahead and use my long arm stapler. I found it at a thrift store. I paid, I think, a whole $3 for it. They're out there. There's a lot of people letting go of their business equipment. So that just makes it a great opportunity for us crafters. So I always check the business section of the thrift stores. So I'm just going to put a couple of staples in this. Well, it's a bit off, but that's okay. We can just work that in a bit. I consider it more of a disposable item, this little car packet. This one I'm making, I'm thinking about using it in the car. So I'm thinking about the things that when I'm traveling that I need. So I do need to record things like because we travel for business sometimes, I want to have auto mileage because I want to keep track of that for the taxes at the end of year. I want to make notes. Maybe I want to make notes right on here of where we're planning on going, where we're staying, hotel, motel kind of notes, ideas for little side trips, or, when you're traveling, all those things you're thinking about when you're traveling. So that is the part one of this. Now, over here, I was thinking, okay, I can add something. And if you didn't see my envelopes, E for envelopes, that's I did a whole thing with envelopes. Well, I'm going to do a whole bunch of envelopes here because they are so handy to have. So I'll show you what I'm going to do here. So this is just folding that over. And it's really handy to have window envelopes as well as plain envelopes. And this is part of the junk mail. Now this is a tad long or wide this way because I want to leave a little room for bulk. So I'm just going to trim that down a bit and I can do that with just do that with scissors. You can do this as accurate as you would like. And so this is a little flip up. And what this is useful for is a couple of things. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and glue that down. And I'm going to glue this down completely because it's already a pocket. The envelope itself is a pocket. So this way I'm not too close to this fold and I'm not too close to this fold. I'm kind of right in the middle, which is where I want to be. And I want to be all the way up, all the way up. Yeah. So that now I've got that too. It's a little bit of a space. Okay. So now that I have that, one of the things I did was I pulled off some Post-it notes because sometimes you need a Post-it note. And this has still got its sticky on it. So I'm just going to go ahead and put in a few of sticky notes. So now that's tucked away in there. And one of the things that I thought would be kind of handy to have is there are times when there's times when you need a safety pin. So I'm going to go ahead and put safety pins in there and I can see those in there. And the other thing I can use sometimes are paper clips. So I'm going to put a couple of paper clips on there. They can be, you just never know when they can be handy. This could go elsewhere in this little packet as well. And the other thing that I find handy sometimes is just to have a couple of rubber bands. So we have a little pocket here. And because there's this flap over it, those are going to be safe in there. I could also have a little overflap this way, but this is kind of like utilitarian. I've got a couple of little things, emergency need sorts of things, and I've got Post-it notes. So I've got that pocket taken care of. I have a signature taken care of. The other thing I find very handy to have are places to put receipts. So I need to keep my receipts for business or my own memory, maybe park entrance receipts, after I've gone through the park and everything. So one of the things that I think would be very handy is to have a little accordion piece in here so that I can tuck away receipts. So now this was a very long envelope, and I don't need the whole thing, and it wound up being just the right size for in here. So again, I'm just using what I have. And then I have this envelope, and here's the other half of this envelope. So I'm going to make an accordion pocket folder with just 3 little pockets. So let's go ahead and do that. I'll speed that up. Okay, you can see how easy that was, and I just used a little piece of the envelope flap to make a tab so that I can get this open easily. And this is a great place to put receipts. And because it's folded into the inside, the receipts aren't going to fall out. And that's something that I do like to think about, is whether or not they're going to get lost or fall out. So that part's done. This part's done. I haven't decided if I need anything more there, but we don't want to get too bulky here. So we're already fattening up, but I want to keep it kind of small. Now, another thing that we need that you may not need are our business cards. People are always asking for our business cards, and we like to give them out. So this is another envelope possibility, another great way to use envelopes. So if I look at a business card width, and there's the width of the envelope, well, that works really well. The only problem is I don't want to make it too tight. I want to make it so that we can get them out. Also, if I go sideways like this, it doesn't leave a lot of room. I'm going to try it though. I could put it on this side. This side's wider. Oh, there we go. Okay, that's a good idea. But again, I don't want to lose anything here. So let me see if I have, yes, this envelope still has the flap. So what I can do with this is glue down that flap. Put that back on. I don't think it was ever off. Okay, so let's glue down that flap. Excellent. And now that will make a really good pocket, but we don't need it full height. Definitely don't need it full height. So probably that would be about right. Let's take that and give that a try. That's what I've been doing with envelopes, is just fiddling around with them, experimenting, and seeing what works. Where did I put it? There it is. So I want to create a little grab spot here. And let's take a look. How would that be? That would be pretty good. And they wouldn't fall out because they're in so far. So that's a pretty good thing. I might want to reinforce these edges, but let me go ahead and make a second one, and I'll make it from the other end of that same envelope. And I'll just line it up here using the existing one as a guide. And we'll find some use for the rest of that envelope. Oh, this is great because this will stack the envelopes. So again, to give this a little more flexibility, I'm not going to go edge to edge to edge. I'm going to stay in the middle so that this pocket can flex, open and close more. Now, you might not need to have business cards with you all the time, but I'm sure you will find other uses for fun little pockets. So there's one for me. Yep, that's going to work really well. I've never done it this way before. I do keep a few business cards in my purse for both of us. My husband is a children's book author, so he's always got people interested in having his card. Okay, that works really well. And of course, you can do all kinds of decorating. You don't even need to use a file folder if you have some really strong scrapbook paper or something like that. So I just have lots of file folders, so this is easy. So I'm happy with how this is turning out. We have kind of like little sticky notes and a flap and a little pocket here, and we have a bit of a signature. I've got my receipt pocket, place for my business cards. Now, what was I thinking about for over here? I think over here, all I need is mm, maybe have an incidental sort of pocket, something that can just be a little something extra in case I need it. Now, I notice that these window envelopes are really long. So I think what I would like to do, so I'm going to cut this one down. Oops, wait a minute. Let me rethink this. I think what I'd like to do instead, it's good to rethink these things. So I'm going to trim this off close to the window. Yeah. Okay, I can rethink this once again. Okay, let me give myself a little wiggle room here. I'm going to trim off close to the window, and I'm going to trim off just a little bit of the edge. I'm going to show you why. Okay, so now I just have a window flap, and it's too long this way. However, yeah, that'll work. What I want to do, and I'm going to kind of mark where the window is. Okay, so I want to go in here, and there's this little extra bit here. So I'm just going to go and fold it. I'm going to cut in, and I'm going to trim off. Yeah, I'm doing this right. I'm going to trim off this little bit of extra. And I want to cut this on an angle because I'm going to fold it. I'm going to fold it around the back. That will maximize how much room I have in the pocket. So I'm going to do the same thing here. Cut it down. Got a little bit of an angle. So this is folded in. And now I can fold this one in. And again, just kind of eyeball it here. All right, so now we can glue these flaps down. Okay. And now And I think what I will do is just keep up with that same idea of not going all the way to the edge, but I'm gluing down more of it. In this case, all the way to the top, but I'm leaving a little bit of a margin on either side here. And my thought around that is that when going to put something inside, I don't want to try and go under there, although I could leave that as a pocket too. But I think this little wallet folio has enough pockets. But see, there's just that little bit of extra room that makes the pocket more accessible. So we've got pockets. Now I did forget something over here. I did forget something, but I'm going to fix that. One of the things that I wanted to add was a pen holder. And I glued these down without thinking about the pen holder. But I've got a little wiggle room here, so I think I can do that. So I took another piece of envelope. Take off that little bit. I took another piece of envelope, and I've got a pen, just a normal old stick pen here, and took a piece of envelope and want to make a little pocket for a pen. But I don't want to make it too small at the top so it's hard to get the pen in and out. I want to make that a little bigger, but I want it to be tighter at the bottom. So if I need to, the pen can go all the way, but actually it's pretty hard to get it to go all the way. So I want that. So I put it on a bit of an angle so I can leave a bigger amount here. So I'm going to glue next to that little crease I just created. I'm going to be cutting most of this paper off. So I only need to glue a little bit, but I want to make sure that I've got room for the pen. Close down here and more open here. So that's why it's on an angle. That's why it's good to think ahead, because I was going to put this underneath whatever was here. But I do have a little bit of space in there. Yeah, I got plenty of space. Same, same. All right. So all I have to do is cut off about that much. All right. I'll cut off just a tad more. And then we will double check. That's going to work. So there's our pen holder. Okay. So I'm just going to have to sneak that under there. Yeah, I can kind of bend that, lift that up, sneak that under there. Another reason to leave pockets a little bit loose. Okay, that worked out. Thank goodness. All right, so now it's very, very clean at this point because I haven't done any decorating. Looking good. I'm going to get some elastic because I think elastic is the most practical for something like this. It's going to be just tucked into a glove box or a console box in a car. The other thing that could be with this is it could have a pouch. We could have a pouch for this, maybe some little cloth bag or something like that. So let me get some elastic and we will finish with a closure. So I've got some thin elastic I got at the fabric store, And because it is very thin, I decided I want to use 2 strands. And so I've just wrapped a couple of strands around and went, okay, that's going to be tight enough. And I want to get it so that I don't want it to just be loose. I want to be able to um, have it stay with the journal and not get lost. So now I need to get it through the spine. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and do this. I'm going to tie these two ends together so stays together. And I've done this before. I did it a little differently the other time. Okay, so now I've got this piece, and what I want to do is, this is an old mouse pad. It makes a good place to poke holes. So I've got my awl for bookbinding, and I'm going next to the spine of this. It's actually part of the spine of the signature. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of go make 2 holes and make them a little bit bigger. Okay. And then I was thinking, okay, how am I going to get this through there? Because if I didn't knot this, I could put it in a needle and just run it through. But one of the things I was able to find is, whoops, one of the things I was able to find was this kit of crochet hooks. I'll tell you, these little tiny metal crochet hooks are so handy. So I'm going to take out an itty bitty one and I want to go, yes, first I want to go in this way. See, the little tiny crochet hook fits through that hole. So I can grab onto the elastic and pull it through. Isn't that fun? So if you see little tiny metal crochet hooks, they are great for this. I've used these before. I have different size crochet hooks as you saw, and I found them useful for pulling string through tag holes and things like that. Just supporting it on the back side. And there it is. Okay, so I'm pulling it through extra just so that I can tie a knot. So I'm just tying a knot for this. Pull it back through, nice and sturdy. And there we have it. Isn't that fun? Yeah, really good thing to have. A few crochet hooks. You don't need this many, but hey, I really love having this kit with all these different sizes. I do a bit of crochet too. I've made a few afghans and sweaters. So this is the bones of the thing. I might tighten that elastic up just a little bit. It's a little looser than I think it needs to be. So here are the bones. I have managed to put in a signature. I've got a flip up with some sticky notes and an extra pocket here for whatever you feel like you need to put in it. Here's an auxiliary pocket. We have an accordion holder. Oh, the other thing this is really good for is if you have customer appreciation cards from like the grocery store or the little coffee shop or stuff like that. So dry cleaners, we have one for the dry cleaners. So it's really handy to have some kind of little thing like this for a purse or in a car. So you can have, that could go in here instead would be customer appreciation cards. That would work really well. And I can see already that, if it goes this way a little bit, yeah, the cards could fall out, so it might be a really handy thing to have a little flap. And I could add flaps to this. I have plenty of leftover envelopes, bits and pieces, but I would want to, yeah, I could still put a little flap in there. And it doesn't have to be an elaborate sort of thing. That's kind of a neat idea. I hadn't thought of that before. And I have some of this leftover envelope. Hmm. All right, let's just keep going with this. Why not? Just a little something extra. And it doesn't have to go all the way across. Matter of fact, I can just cut that in half. Ta-da. And I think I'll round the corners so those edges don't stick up so much. You're always thinking of extra things, huh? I mean, we can't help ourselves. So you keep experimenting, and before you know it, you've got all kinds of possibilities. I'm not going all the way to the tippy top. Let me take that out first. That way I can put this in, and I'm leaving that little unglued part out. And I can put the cards back in. You know, if you have a customer appreciation card, and there's that. Now what I can do is I can do a little extra fold on it. And then just make sure it stays there. Okay, that's cool. That's a good thing. All right. Now we need this one. And I'll put just a little extra fold, create a little ease, and so that it lays down flat. Great little pocket for customer appreciation cards or business cards. Okay, wow. So now they're not going to fall out. Cool. So we got an extra pocket here. Um, I was thinking I was going to make three of these, but I think I've covered the bases. Um, I think so. It's kind of like let me go get my I'm going to make a list for you. So I made all these little sketches and I pretty much have everything because you could have another pocket in here. You could put you could put another pocket in front. I don't think it'd be a good idea to put one in back, but if you needed to add another flap of something, I mean, this thing could bulk up quite a bit. And there's other ways you could do an attachment is you could put like a brad and have your elastic attached to the brad. And you'd want to plan ahead, of course, so that you could put it in before this particular envelope flap pocket went in. Let's see, I pretty much covered everything. All right, let me make these notes legible for you and I'll put them on the screen because I put a lot of ideas in here. So I hope that you found this interesting. This one is definitely going to go in the car. I think I'll do some, you know, put something pretty here, some kind of image. And oh, this works out really, really well. Cool. And I'll look at the list and, if I need to make something else, I will. But this is something that's so quick and easy to make that you could put in your purse or the car. All right, let me go get that list and go for that. I had mentioned just showing you some of my ideas and my silly little sketches. So that's what this is. If you want to take a screenshot, here they are. And so I finished it. I finished it and I'm really happy with how it came out because went ahead and I did some decorating. And let's go ahead and flip through it really quick. You've seen the whole process. So there's the elastic. I tightened it up a bit so that it's a little stronger. All right. And I had some pretty paper. I had a little piece left over, so I went ahead and made made it a little pocket. And all I did was cut off another piece of an envelope And this time I glued it down all the way to the edges. So it is kind of a little tight envelope, but on the outside, you want it to be tight. You don't want it to be loose. So I had this little snippet left, so I glued it onto the end of an envelope and glued that end of an envelope down. So I prettied it up. I glued this on and wrapped it around the edge, did some inking around the edge, went with a blue theme. I have this pocket, and over here we have the business cards. These pockets would be just as good for those national park passes. You know, there's regional park passes, state park passes, and like the Golden Eagle Pass for national parks. I've used it for business cards, but I do have a couple of park passes in my wallet. We have a really nice little pen holder that could hold a pencil as well. Over on this side, I have a flip up envelope with some sticky notes. And then I realized that the safety pins and the rubber bands were kind of coming loose. So, well, there's paper clips. So I paper clipped the whole envelope shut. So anything that you put inside, okay, it's going to stay there. I could always add another pocket here, but I decided I didn't at this point. If ever I find I need one, I will add a pocket. So I do have a little signature here. It's simply stapled in. When I use it up, I could staple another one in, or I could do a three-hole pamphlet stitch and not use those same holes, which would keep the spine strong. And I could always reinforce the spine, but this could be reusable, you know? And I decorated the little tab here so that the accordion pockets open up. Now it would be easier to decorate before I did all this assembly, but as you can see, it worked out just fine. I did it afterward, and it's cute. It's handy. It's definitely something I am going to use. This will go in my car. I'm going to Mod Podge the paper and this on the outside. Just give it a little extra resilience, resistance to maybe a little water spill or something like that. So there's that. And I wanted to offer one more thing for it's really this, you could consider this like a pocket journal or purse journal. So it could be a P sort of things if we're going to go alphabetical. But I figured it more was like a mini book. It could mini journal. It could also be considered a mini notebook. It's very multi-purpose though. So I'm going with the mini multi-purpose. But while we're doing this sort of thing for something that you can keep in the car. One of the things the artists that I hang out with have talked about is having a little travel kit. Well, this is a very small zipper pouch. You can see it's not much bigger. It wouldn't hold this. The pen holder kind of prevents it from going in here, although you could have a little cloth bag. But in this one, I have a small sketchbook. I have a art pen. This is a brush pen. I have a writing pen, and I have a couple of pencils. And I have a little sharpener, and I have some mini pencils. So I've got some color, I've got different things, and that all fits in this little pouch. So any of you that like to do a little sketch on the run or anything like that, here's something that you can put together that you could keep in the car just for those times when you go like, oh, I wish I'd brought a sketch pad. Well, I've had that happen. So there, I can make notes with that, but I haven't had this in the car. So there you go. There's a couple of ideas for you for some multi-purpose, something to travel with. This could go in a backpack. This could go in a backpack. So you could be on a hike, right? Just multi-purpose. I hope that that was a good idea for you and you're inspired and you'll play around with this idea. It might be just something that you need too. So thank you so much for watching, and I'm really grateful to the new subscribers for being here. I appreciate the wonderful comments I've been getting, and yeah, I mean that's why I'm here, and the comments help keep me going, and it's been a wonderful month already. So, and we've still got half the month to go. So we'll see what else I can fit in. I've got a few notes written down. So anyway, thanks for watching and bye for now.